Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Become a channel member where you'll get access to all archive videos, support Black Male Media, support independent media, super chats enabled, super thanks for the replay gang. Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word. Spell out the word doctor. And yeah, if you want to feed me sandwiches, Sandwich Gang folks in here, you know how to do that. Please like the video on the way in. Please like the video on the way in. And please consider supporting the show. A variety of ways that you can do so. As I said, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, Dr. Thunder Music, all one word, spell out the word doctor. But also super thanks for the replay gang. And you can also become a channel member. So please consider those ways. And this is Case Closed. Case Closed. Celebrating fatherhood and the N-word debate. Let me tell you, this N-word debate, this thing just keeps coming back. This joint just comes back over and over and over, and it's pretty amazing. The kind of life it has. Now, on the one side of this, you can see how, the word is pretty offensive. It's got some history to it, and of course, folks will try to do the, nigga versus the hard er, and somehow these are different things. Hard er, apparently, that's the really digging out, images of gator bait and picnics and strange fruit. But where nigga, apparently something about a term of endearment, and so there's a lot of nuance about this. But one thing that historically has always been the case is no matter what, we can say it, but you can't say it. We can say it, but you are not permitted to say it. And to some, that seems to be, hey, not a bad cost to pay, price to pay, since ninjas ain't getting no reparations. If that's the only thing that you got to worry about is you can't say that one word, and we can, that doesn't seem like it's a big deal. But others see this as some sort of, freedom of speech issue. Like, if we can't say that word, then we might as well not be able to say any word. So, yeah. So this is a sort of interesting debate. Recently, a white girl, a Becky, got caught saying the word rather irreverently. And then that sparked some panel discussions where Becky comes on and is talking, she's talking all of this, she's using the word on the panel, and, black folks on the panel, they're about falling out of their seat every time she uses the word. Now, look, people are going to say what they're going to say. My preference actually tends to be, I'd rather know what people actually think. So, hey, if the price for me to know what people think and then therefore be able to more adequately protect my family, from folks that don't mean me well, would be if it means that I have to hear a hard er or a nigga or a ninja or a spook or jigaboo or we can go for a while here, porch monkey, Let's see, what else do we got? Gator bake. Now, of course, you have, uh, you know, we've got other black people in on the game, in particular black women, calling ninjas dusty and bullet bags and all kinds of stuff. So hey, uh, but hey, this is a great topic to discuss on Father's Day, right? All right. We just getting warmed up, and of course you have all of the business. Mother's Day is number one holiday. Everybody shows up to church on Mother's Day. Nobody cares about daddy. All of that kind of stuff. Matter of fact, folks be working. Daddies be working on Father's Day because ain't nobody thinking about daddy. Yeah, we've grown accustomed to this being the thing. And then of course you have the deal with some of these single mothers, so-called reclaiming Father's Day because they're the dad and the mom, which I'm not sure exactly how that works. But hey, and also, I noticed that some companies, they intentionally don't go hardcore on Father's Day because they realize that it's triggering. It's triggering to single mothers. And ain't that some BS there? Well, hey, that's what it is. So we've got, it's going to be a good discussion today. We are, case closed, the highest level conversation on the most relevant topics in this space. And of course, we've got our all-star panel. We've got LAR Movement. We got, what are we calling them? Kaisorian Empire, Polymath Empire. Yes, you know how we do it. And of course, our moderator, none other than Ike Ogiamian. I was going to say a slur there, but that it wouldn't have been in good taste. I'll refrain from that on Father's Day. Only on Father's Day, though. So we'll be right back with another riveting episode with Case Closed. Of Case Closed. Let's go. Warning: some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised. That includes gratuitous use of the N word. All right.
Gratuitous, huh? So we're just gonna be throwing out like that. Well, that's good. That's good.
All right,
Nice
go
to
ahead.
know. At least we can have that, right? Since
That's right.
fathers can't have anything, so we can at least
That's
have
right.
that.
At least we get we get to use the N word. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know if we're gonna call me ashy foot, but as
Uh,
a unmelanated individual,
well, I was
I
going to call you
can't be
high
ashy.
yellow. I was going to call you
Oh,
high
okay.
yellow, but I thought that was in poor taste. So
All right, all right, all right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and get into this. Father's Day, LAR. Let me get your take here. In the public eye, it could be celebrities, it could be other people. It could be just symbolically in the news or in corporations or whatever. But do you think that there are enough fathers out there in the public eye that serve as a positive role model these days? Could you even name any if you could think of it? What are your thoughts on that, Eliar?
There's a lot of positive imagery of fathers. It's just I I will say this. I think this era or generation of fathers, it's really getting backlash from past eras so to make them look the same. And I'm not even sure if those past fathers were that bad, you know.
mm,
So it's one of those things where to uplift mothers, you gotta throw fathers under the bus, and you know, and it's always been a joke for most fathers. It's always been a joke. Like I remember, 80s, 90s, 2000s. It's and I'm sure before that, it's always been a joke that fathers are gonna get a terrible holiday, the short end of the stick. I don't want that janky little tie you trying to buy me. I
mm-hmm.
don't need a tool set. Go barbecue for us. Like whatever. So, but I also think this. Fathers in general don't make Father's Day a big deal.
Yeah.
So, it's not the holiday. Father be like, what you want for Father's Day? For you to get out my face and don't ask me for no money. That's all I need. So that's what I think about it.
So you think there's a lot of fathers have been serving as the whipping boy. You mentioned past fathers. You wanna elaborate on that a little bit? Like which particular generation here, is presumably the ones that are kind of being shown in the bad light or whatever, whether real or not, real or imagined. But for people who may not be familiar with what you're talking about, which generations are you talking about, or if you can elaborate a
So
little bit?
people would say that they were, let's just say Jim Crow era, right? Jim
Mhm.
Crow to let's just say 70s. They would say that um guys were cheating a lot, and guys were beating their wives, and had a family across town or down the street. But they don't necessarily say what went on during that time period. They don't say that a lot of guys went off to war and a lot of guys came back to babies that wasn't theirs.
Mhm.
So you leave that part out. We skip to the guys being on drugs part, or we skip to we skip past some guys went home, well, went out and never came back because they got killed or lynched or something, and all of a sudden he was abandoned. And the reason I say that is because in the stories people had from then, they basically grew to this era. And if you notice something, you started hearing the stories change over the last 5-10 years. The guys back in the day were such stand-up guys who took care of the family. Then you find out that your granddaddy wasn't your granddaddy. You know, your uncle ain't your uncle. And it's like, wait, what? Y'all taking DNA tests and realizing, oh well, I thought you said that, you know, this happened and this guy abandoned us, and you start finding out, oh, these guys weren't these actual bad, evil predators. Like, these guys were just regular human beings who sometimes, like, take for instance the movie Fences, right? People like to use the movie Fences with Denzel and Viola Davis, and they say, the character having a kid with another woman and his wife raising it. Truth be told, if you look back at that era, it was more prevalent the other way around, and the guy not know it.
Yeah. Always has been.
So that's what I mean by that stuff.
Good point. Good point. So, Polymath Empire, Kaizo, right? You heard what Eliar said. There's some interesting things in there. The general question is obviously, in the public eye, fathers being represented in a particular way, or just good role models out there for what good fatherhood should be, right? And also, there's some interesting things that Eliar mentioned that you can kind of pick apart with regards to people talking about transgressions from the past, which are always more complicated than the accounts would suggest. And also, really nothing new or spectacular. Like, okay, whatever. So some people were cheating. Oh, great. Like, okay. I think that's been happening since forever. But anyways, go ahead and address the question, Kaizo.
Okay. Okay. So okay. I think the major things that have actually changed is um, the changing landscape of man as protector and man as provider. So I think it's a power thing. Morality isn't really a major concern here. I think it's the fact that in human nature we've existed always contending with the harshness of reality, right? As a pair bond sort of system to create the most viable environment for a child to be reared, right? The woman needed the man needed the woman, of course, right? But the point is, we reached a point whereby, first of all, culturally, if you bring up someone who is too high level, too well adjusted, you are actually kind of turning them into a world of hurt, because they're not going to be, meeting other highly adjusted children around them. They're going to be meeting crazy people. So ultimately, I think that we have to embrace change at some point. The men who still want to create the domain, they still can and will. But I think culturally speaking, either you come to Africa, right, or you give up.
Nice one, nice one, nice one. Succinct, and I like how you ended there. Very good, very good. Let me drop a statement on you, Kaizo, and just kind of occurred to me, and let me see what you think about it. So basically, the idea of turning against the father. It's old. It's literally ancient. It's literally like mythological that mother and the mother and the son will conspire against the father. Just kind of think of that's naturally going to happen. You're kind of the mother is the primary caretaker. It's where whom you get bonded to is first. Your whole identity kind of wrapped up in that. And there's some subtle competition between you and your father, and then the mother has her own thing she's trying to do too, and blah blah blah. And there's a little conspiracy, and there are myths about that whole thing, right? And then ultimately, the guy has to grow up and take the keys, take the keys where his testicles are locked from underneath his mother's pillow or something, and grow up, that kind of a thing. Given that, and then there's some people who say, look, in recent times women have kind of rebelled against, perhaps rightly, the injustices of societal norms, right? Like society makes demands of everyone, and that women are like, F it. And that men have not found their footing in this new landscape here yet. I know you just mentioned that, but I just wanted to kind of react to what I'm saying here. They've not found their footing. They haven't said F it in the right way or understand what F it really means or reestablish some kind of a new order, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts about what I just said, Kaizo?
Yeah. So Okay, great thing, right? So yeah, you're right. Women sort of they use their own reasoning, right? Societal sort of manipulation to fight against their own very peculiar oppression, right? Men, I think, on the other hand, the issue with us, we're not able to evolve and use the arguments that work given the circumstances. We're kind of backwards in a way, right? Men, we value logic. Logic isn't valued in a societal sort of fashion, right? The consequences of actions and choices, nobody really cares. These days, what really matters is what can be seen right in front of us, right? And the issue is, if men, continue doing what they're doing, which is telling people to value culture, society, 10 years in the future, all these studies show that children with fathers in the house, at a significant level, whether the two are, intertwined romantically doesn't matter. That child is going to be way more well adjusted. In this case, I'll even adjust my argument and say they're not going to end up in prison or doing the worst kinds of crime. So the issue here is that I think I blame men. Men are kind of limited in their reasoning capacity. They don't know how to use arguments at work, and they're focusing on what they think is right, or rather, they still have that paternalistic instinct that, honestly, as I said, right, society's changed the game, right? The police is the protector, the state, the taxes is the provider, right? The state can literally take half of your shit, give it to someone else, even if they weren't involved in the grid. So the point is, it's kind of simple. I blame men for simply not changing their argumentation. And let me use a very contrived one here. When 40-year-old women, right, when they leave their families, everyone says, "Oh well, she's discovering herself. She's being happy. Oh, she wasn't happy, right?" When a man starts buying and spending frivolous things, they call it a midlife crisis. So the issue is, men allow these things to go on. And they don't challenge them. You don't challenge them by arguing with women. That's also stupid. You challenge them by not accepting societal, the new status quo that women have created. And I think that's where men have to find a way to just ignore these things and create their own very successful um, systems.
Gotcha. Yeah. So group logic is way more effective in the power play. By group logic, I mean, what you mentioned, the FE, the ways groups tend to move, which is emotional, is way more effective power play than you sitting and thinking, oh, what went wrong? It's not right. Blah blah blah. Anyways, okay, fine. Dr. Thunder, good role models out there showing what the good father should be, at least, right? That kind of a thing. What are your thoughts about that? And also, you could comment on what Kaizo and LAR and everyone has been saying so far.
Yeah. So, um, I would also put the responsibility of this on the men, for allowing things to get to a certain place, because had it not been for a strong patriarchal structure, uh, you know, empowerment propaganda wouldn't be possible. It's the structure that has actually facilitated the propaganda. It's the very structure that um, disseminates the propaganda. And but it's I think part of it has to do with men perhaps not realizing that how much of a utility we're seen as, and that uh, love means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Men tend to love more idealistically and tend to exhibit more of the more kind of unconditional sort of type of love. I believe part of the reason why God is seen as a father, he's represented as a father, is because of this. And men tend to exhibit that, willing to sacrifice, willing to work themselves to death for the sake of their family, X, Y, and Z. And even when things aren't going well, still willing to, stick in there. Now, this is not true about all, but that's not really particularly advantageous for folks that need someone to protect them. You have to go where the protection is, right? So it builds in a utility sort of aspect of manhood. It builds that in there, and I think the mistake that has been made, that continues to be made, is that we still, in our heart of hearts, pine after and desire after a love that really sees us as people, sees us as people first, that sees us as a human being, and does not prioritize utility. And that's just not the world that we live in. It's not the world that we live in. And you could argue that that's wrong. It shouldn't be that way. But you have to look at what is. You have to look at what is. So now I'm saying all of this to say that when you consider how the structure has been used to basically, what is it? Planted the seeds of our destruction, have been planted in the, in the structure by men. We didn't realize, or we were not honest with ourselves, that of the sort of opportunistic nature of the XX. And so when the shoe is on the other foot, and we'll say when they have the leg up, they're not going to be as willing to change the structure for the sake of those that have been marginalized. They're just not going to do that because they're not wired that way. We were wired that way to listen to and to try to make the lives easier of those that we had unconditional love for. But since that's not really what comes back, it's not likely that that's going to change. So anyhow, I said all that to say, all of the issues with fatherhood, all of the sort of marginalizing fathers, treating them like it's not a big deal. We can do without daddies, all of this kind of stuff. You never hear that on the other side. You don't hear we don't need mothers, and that's because we realize that we need mothers. But not only that, we actually love our mothers. I'm not convinced that we really love our fathers.
This is no ordinary love. All right. Not bad. Shout out to Sade. Thinking the other day that quite unique in terms of the mix of genres and what she did. I don't think anyone is kind of occupying that space after, Sade and whatnot. But anyways, shout out to her. Now, I want to ask Eliar this year. Kaizo started talking about things in terms of society changing and whatnot. But Eliar, do you think that the role of fatherhood has changed over time in terms of societal expectations? Some people tend to argue, for example, that it hasn't changed. Well, if we tie fatherhood to masculinity and all that kind of stuff, that masculinity still is masculinity. Protect, provide still is protect, provide, and that the role is still kind of expected and whatnot. What are your thoughts about this? Has societal expectations of fathers shifted, or is it still more the same? It's kind of like a responsibilities without rights situations. Like the rights are gone, but the responsibilities are still there. What are your thoughts? Do you see this as having changed in the West or not really?
I think what happened is people wanted it more concentrated, which means I want you to be a father, but in a shorter amount of time. I think people looked at fatherhood as a person that didn't need to be there day in and day out, but at pivotal moments. So I think it wound up morphing into come be a father when I need you to be one. and then
Oh,
leave.
mm,
And uh, society, I mean, thinking that like being mothered is more important in the sense of, mothers nurture and, you know, they have a better bond with the kids because they're supposed to be always there with the kids per se. Uh, what you have is really an experiment that people have now looked at as a failing experiment, because now what you have is people who are communication based but solution degenerate when it comes to solutions. You know, they know how to talk through it, but okay, so since you know everything that's the problem, now fix it. Oh, I gotta go now. So I think that's what happened over the years. The thought process was one thing, what people assumed was another, and now the ramifications are shown. I said this in this example. People will say child support, just pay your child support. And then and they realize the kid ain't parenting right, it's your daddy's fault. And then when it's over, and let's just say child support is no more, you need to go learn how to be an adult by being around your father. And that's what society is. To be a child is to be with your mother, but to be an adult, you need to be with your father. But that just happens to happen after you're grown, which is ridiculous and stupid, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it speaks a little bit to the utilitarian or the utility aspect that Dr. Thunder was bringing up, the pragmatic aspects, like that's even been more doubled down on. Um, and the aspect of, because with the bond, with the motherhood, with the mother, it's kind of intrinsically known and understand and whatnot, right? But I think that bond with the father or the father's presence being important as opposed to just, well, it's the place where you go get the child support bill or the place where you throw the blame at or the place where you say, hey, go learn to be a man at some point when it's too late. Good points, good points. Now, Kaiser, what are your thoughts about this? Like expectations of fathers, you might even maybe share what you think uh, a father is supposed to be role wise, right? And how that might have shifted or not shifted, depending on where you're coming from and from what perspective you're looking at it. But go ahead, Kaiser.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I'll start off with masculinity. Masculinity is probably one of the most debated thing that gets misconstrued by so many different people. Masculinity is what the father is there to imbue, right? And what that means is being well-adjusted human being in relationship to those who are under your protection. So what I'm trying to say here is the role of a father is to teach their sons and daughters how to be emotionally stable, as an example, knowing when to react, when to respond, how to respond, right? All the nuances of being able to deal with stoicism, especially when things don't look like they're in perspective. So the father's role is literally there to help curtail, prevent the son from being led by his emotion, because at the end of the day, society has different expectations from us, and we are using our limbic system to approach this, right? When the police sees a woman and a man in any sort of domestic dispute, they assume and they even hope the man is the aggressor, regardless of how it looks in that moment, because we are human beings. Culturally, we are wired in a certain way. So the man is there to make sure that both the female child and the male child get to actually grow up as healthy individuals, because this new age idea whereby again women have been given a voice, whether they took it or not, it doesn't matter, to just be out there, be children, right? That somehow everything's going to be okay. It doesn't work. In reality, there's consequences in the future. So if you just act on your base impulses in the moment, you let go of responsibility. If you don't pay your rent and oh, just be happy. Your child wants to do a course in university that you don't think is going to pay out. A father is supposed to tell them, hey, look, do what you want. At the end of the day, you'll take this, but just be responsible. Here's what I think, but hey, just know the facts. You decide what you're going to do, but be responsible. So I believe that the role of a father is to imbue these lessons of really how to deal with life, because life rarely ever goes in a linear direction in any sort of preferred manner. It's always got things happening. So I believe that's the role of a father. Masculinity is learning to deal with the unknown and figuring out the best way to sort of represent yourself in shared space reality.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. You're talking about emotional regulation, generally speaking. And if you just think from a systems point of view, if you have all these different nodes, half of them are men, half of them are women, it tends to be that men are able to diffuse a situation quicker. By that I mean, we know the tropes, right? They're gonna get in a fist fight and then they're gonna go play basketball afterwards, right? It's not gonna fester, right, as much. Now, the festering that, shall we say, which is perhaps the woman's purview, I'm not saying it's not necessary. It's needed, right? But that's why you need both of these things to be interacting with each other. Ideally, you need the people playing the long term game and the uh, rather indirect status competition games that women tend to play, and then you need the man to come in and just kind of do some kind of rather acute spike, resolve the situation and whatnot. So I think that that plays into that particular model that I play with as well. But Dr. Thunder, coming up next there. What do you think with regards to the role of fathers fundamentally, how it's changing, societal's expectations shifting, and so on? Go ahead.
So this is interesting because, in a matter of speaking, and I thought what LAR said, but of course, both gentlemen had good things to say, but in particular, what LAR was talking about as far as compressing fatherhood. We just need you right here. We need you there. Okay, and then that's all we need you for. This kind of thing, which is ridiculous. Um, part of the role of a father is to protect the child from the mother. I know that sounds crazy, but if look, we're different. Men and women are different, right? And so this balance that you're talking about, and the balance also is necessary on the other side. The role of the mother is to protect the child from the father. What the father's ready to go. He probably wants the kid to be doing stuff, especially if it's a son. Wants him to be doing stuff that he's probably too big for his britches too quickly. Too much. Too much stuff. And the mother's like, "Hey, check it out. He needs some more clothes on. He needs some. He needs. Hey, if you're gonna be out there in the woods with you for like 24 hours, the kid is 3. So the so the mother protects the kid from the father also, and from maybe a harsh punishment or whatever. But look, mostly today, the children that we're cranking out need the protection from the mother. They need the protection from the mother, because not as many fathers are involved, not or have been allowed to be involved. Fathers have been pushed to the periphery, have been compressed, as LAR mentioned, and then you have, especially when you talk about like the Black American community, you want to start talking about, even when the father is present, generations of women being leading in basically pacifying a real masculinity, and so not submitting themselves to the authority of a man for generations, and what that ends up looking like in a family dynamic where the dad's there, they've been married for 30 years or whatever it is, all that stuff is true, but the kids still end up being handicapped because they were not really protected from their mother. Their mother basically got what they wanted in almost every scenario. You have to balance. It's a balancing act. Two are better than one. Not because the one just does what the other one says, but because there's a push and pull there. There has to be someone that makes the final decision. In my worldview, that's supposed to be the man. It's been designed to be the man. Doesn't mean that you don't listen. It doesn't mean that you surprise your spouse with stuff that you never talked about. You talking in public and other people are around and you saying a bunch of stuff that you never even talked about. It doesn't mean that you do goofy stuff like that. But someone has to make a final decision, right? And so in the traditional construct, that is the man. Now, what's happened is men are still expected to do all of the same stuff that they did in the past with respect to sacrificing themselves for their family, working themselves to death, all of that kind of stuff, bumping the night, the ninja got to get up and go and protect, all of that stuff. That's still expected. However, it is not so on the other side. What the expectations for what were to be, the traditional expectations, those expectations have changed a great deal. So women really are not doing what women did in the past. Men are still required to do the same things, or expected to do the same things. And that's created a real imbalance. I would still put most of the responsibility for that on the men, because it was the men that had control of this thing, and because they did not see themselves as utilities in the way that women saw them as utilities. And perhaps they believed that, well, she really loves the real me, this sort of business, and the sort of no one's more of a romantic than men. Men are the real romantics. All of that going to the lion's den and going and going and fire breathing dragon and all of that stuff, and then you get the girl at the end, and then she just can't get enough of you for life, and she just is totally all of that's men. Those stories are told by men, right? That all that romance stuff that was started by men. But the real world, real life is those that require protection, those that are what we used to refer to as being the weaker sex. They are not going to. It's never going to be the case that they're going to have the same sort of view of us as we have of them, because we're not for the same purpose. We're valuable for different reasons. We balance each other in different ways. So, yeah.
It's a good thing I was hearing recently from a woman's perspective regarding that protective impulse that men and boys have for like the feminine. You have referenced it with regards to quote unquote unconditional love or being romantic. It seems to be something that's kind of hardwired, that you want to protect puppies and fragile things, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's not going away anytime soon, I don't think.
No, it never goes away. If they can make that sad pouty face, and bat their eyes at you, that's it. I mean, look, that's it. You're never gonna beat that. That wins every time. Wins every time. Sorry.
Guys always imagining anime or
Oh,
or
right,
hentai. Who
right.
knows?
Yeah, yeah. The super big eyes.
Yeah, and to the point Dr. Thunder made about the final decisions and whatnot, but got can't be out there getting new wives, Kaizo, not telling your first wife and just dropping it as a aside amongst like what?
This your new
Yeah, my other
this your
wife.
new mammy. This gonna be your sister wife and kids. This your new mammy. So
Yeah,
Indeed.
but okay. So what about I don't Ike, you don't really love the whole celebrity thing, but I forgot their names, but there's this famous Arab couple that recently had a divorce, I think. Now, what I find interesting is when women go through growth, it tends to break everything apart because they start to mirror what society is telling them at the time. So if society is now focused on telling them that, well, to be a good mother, and in this case, again, I forgot the name of this Arab couple, but um, before they, started the relationship, the woman wasn't really, great in her career, or anything. The guy built up the YouTube channel. Um, they started doing really good, and I think the guy was happy, but the woman slowly began, building resentment. And of course, things like jealousy, not so called not knowing her place, disliking the fact that she was a mother and that she even had the privilege to be a mother that didn't have to engage in capitalism. Um, and it reached a point whereby she started saying things that she doesn't know herself. And when she, kind of had more money and started her own channel, she just kind of, yeah, got divorced. It's kind of interesting. The more they sort of get tricked by society, the more they start allowing these thoughts. And remember, like, these people aren't as, let's say, stoic as we can be. So, once these thoughts start, once they start meditating on these thoughts in their minds, the evil spirit takes over, and they really start to mirror all the things that society tells them. So, yeah, there is that evil spirit that you will not know if the woman you're dealing with has the potential for corruption at a very basic level or not, immediately at least.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kaizo. So in situations, so I agree that in general, and it doesn't even matter the man or the woman, and these things, just a question of scales, right? But in general, women's transformations tend to be more, I don't want to say chaotic, but it's all encompassing. It's like sticky. It's like you can't just change one thing. It becomes this whole crisis of like everything is wrong, right? Yeah, like, oh, like I've been living it all wrong. That tends to happen. Now, I would
yeah.
agree. Again, going back to the whole men hold responsibility. In this case, that particular man, you as the husband, and the strength of your bond is to blame here, because you are supposed to be able to help your woman through that process, right? And understand. And again, sure, Kaizo, now I'm talking about that particularly well adjusted, you may say high level man now, right? And perhaps in the past, there will be kind of societal scaffolding and the family and all these other things that would help the woman kind of go through the different phases of life. But you, as the man, and the strength of your bond with that woman should help her go through the changes, which I 100% agree with you that with women it tends to be more sticky. It's like it's not going to be as compartmentalized, right? Oh, I have this chaos over here. I'm just going to deal with that chaos. No, it's gonna spread out, and they're going to start
Oh yeah.
questioning everything.
Yeah.
So you need to understand that you can't just take a back seat. No, you got to get in there and be and
But
you got to be like a therapist. Anyways, go ahead.
something has to be said in this context. I like this. The less of an ability to compartmentalize, right? That seems to be the case. Okay, it's not 100%, but it seems to be much as the case. And emotions, of course, end up coloring everything the same color. So then you have this dynamic, and really you need to be able to disaggregate things. You need to be able to um, untangle stuff to see what actually the issue is. But here, I was going to say, so um, in order to be able to actually um, in the way that I think is needed, that's most healthy, most effective, to really be able to help a woman navigate through sort of periods, the man would have to have a certain level of authority, wouldn't he? Right? He needs to be able to say, "Nope, we're not doing that." And yeah, I think that sounds like a good idea. Go with that some more. And yep, nah, you off the reservation again. No, we can't even think that way. And yeah, you know what? That's so the guy has to be able to do that. And unfortunately, in this, you know, so-called, we're all equal, we're all the same sort of approach to doing everything, partnership. Now it's like both parties can say all of the same stuff to each other, and that doesn't even it doesn't complement, it doesn't help the natural tendencies. It only exacerbates the natural tendencies because you know you can't tell them anything. They can do anything that they want to do, and then you're still to blame. You still are responsible, right? Because you're still expected to carry the biggest load. You're still expected to, be willing to die for this thing and, provide no matter what. And you're still expected to do all that. But on the front side, you don't have the ability to say, nope, we ain't doing that. And that could have been the help that you actually needed.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. This is good. Let's pivot a little bit now to some actual practical advice with regards to you just talked about being the father, the counselor. There's work to do, there's money to be made, there's school fees to be paid, there's life, there's all these things, right? So what advice, LAR, what ways, what available means are there for men to face, balancing work and family responsibilities, share strategies for achieving a healthy balance with all this type of stuff? What are your thoughts about that? What are some of the challenges that you might see, and perhaps maybe some of the ways of resolving them? LER.
I would say honesty is the best policy first and foremost. I think that and I say that in this scenario, you see a more expressive society saying things because of how they feel and how they want to feel and how they idealistically view a situation. So you'll see people say, my father was in the home, but he wasn't, present. And normally a father would say something back like, I wasn't present when you was playing video games because you didn't want to be bothered, right? I wasn't present when, you wanted to go be on the phone with your friends all day long. That's what you're talking about? Like
Yeah.
a lot of times what happens is people don't want fathers to talk because what winds up happening is it makes children and sometimes wives and mothers like uncomfortable because the narrative that they have is always one-sided, and the balance comes where father's perspective adds a different layer of context. You were always at work and you were always spending money. You get what I'm saying? Like it becomes I'm part of this issue because fathers is always looked at. I ain't gonna say fathers have been looked at as a problem in the family while they're actually taking care of the family. And part of what you see in our society between men and women when they become adults is they're having a hard time being adults because it's not necessarily my father wasn't around. It's more, my father was subsidizing me being immature, and we were kind of me and me and mom were a team to make sure that we were on the same side. And now life then came into the equation, and maybe that wasn't such a good idea because society has an issue with sacrifice. Society has an issue with making a decision, and that becomes, and if you notice from how this society itself is run, especially with men and fathers, it's give me the money and get out of my face. But when the spigot of money gets cut off, people have quote unquote mental illness problems, and usually, guys look at it. Yeah, I know what your problem is. I know why you're having a mental breakdown, because ain't nothing free no more.
Yep. Yep.
That's the issue. So to me, that's where this a lot of this stems from. But I'm done.
I want to, if you don't mind incorporating this, Ike.
Mhm.
So Ice Princess says it doesn't matter who's uncomfortable. Men be the men, control her and the children. So here's my initial assessment of this. Of course, I agree that that's true, but the problem with that is that the men have been disarmed. So you've given men a job that's not really possible for them to do, but then also at the same time holding them responsible for the results of whatever happens, right? So I think that's the issue. I don't know if maybe I don't
Yeah.
know what you think
So
of that. I go ahead.
the first thing that Kaizo said, well, the way he ended when he says, "Well, go to Africa," which is a which could be generalized, as in go to a place where there's that societal scaffolding and the tools available to
Right.
you, right?
Right.
Or give up. He said, right? Go there or give up. And but then there is the quote unquote. He also mentioned high level, well adjusted man, which I was kind of alluding to with regards to, well, not you got to be that counselor, that whatever, and you have to know the woman, have to have that bond, have to understand that you can't just take the back seat. You got to kind of like what because we are different. We are able to diffuse things, compartmentalize things, kind of like watch and be patient and see such and such and such, right? But I do 100% see the issue here, right?
Mm.
Hey, go ahead, control them, right? I've heard that there was this guy, I think his name is Gavin, like was the founder of the Proud Boys. I don't know if anyone remembers that. um, some crazy guy, started Vice, the media empire that I think is now bankrupt, and he started the Proud Boys thing. Some people call him a white supremacist, but that's everyone's a white supremacist these days. But he was on Joe Rogan and he was talking about, no, man, have 100% responsibility. You sit her down and you say, no, our family is not going to break apart. And I was just like, okay, if that's the kind of woman you have, sure. But ultimately, yes, you're going to need to know the kind of woman you have. And you're going to need to see things going astray, right? And you're going to need to be able to take care of it. If you need the societal scaffolding, then yes, 100% go find that where it is. If you're trying to turn the hoe into a housewife, well,
Yeah,
that's
that ain't
another
gonna work.
set of issues there.
Here, real
But
quick, let me acknowledge the super chat. It's a $2 dusty Canadian bucks there from Andre 420. He says, "Happy Father's Day to all the fathers here, 100." Thank you very much for that. And I also wanted to. This is a follow up by Ice Princess saying, "Does God ask us what we are incapable to do?" So it's a contradiction in terms. That's like a
Can I answer that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
There's a reason for heaven and hell, because you can choose to do whatever you want. God doesn't stop you from making a choice. It's the same thing as far as parents. Parents give you options. If you choose the wrong option, that's your issue. That's the idea that everybody believes I'm going to heaven. Yeah, I kind of did a bunch of trifling stuff, but I'm gonna wake up and say I believe in you. That's not how it works.
Yeah.
That's our societal issue.
Yeah. So if you have if you think over it uh, in the Abrahamic religious context, God over man, man over wife, wife over children. Now in um, the West has attempted to monkey with this and has been rather successful at monkeying with this. So this is why we talk about partnership rather than talking about husband wife, because husband wife, there's a um, uh, there's an intrinsic order there. There's a hierarchy in husband and wife, right? Um, so in a society that has basically done almost everything to eliminate uh, this sort of scaffolding, and also where most of the churches have totally also unraveled most of the scaffolding, you're going to have less fathers able to actually do what's necessary. Uh, because I mean, let's face it. In certain scenarios, more aggressive action is needed. I'm not talking about physical violence. I'm saying more aggressive action is needed if stuff gets so far left. But with the way that things are, those more severe measures have been taken away, so that it's not even possible to do those things. So you can't have that as the societal norm, but then also uh, uh, but then also penalize the men for for the result. Men need support like everybody else needs support. Fathers need support like everybody else needs support. And I also wanted to mention this right here. K and Q says, Dr. T, I heard the worst Father's Day message in church today. This underlines part of what I'm talking about. In short, that the church needs more fathers, no mentions of husbands, just more fathers. Ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Ridiculous indeed. Go ahead.
Husbandry. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, Kaizo, I want you to comment on both things that are going on right now. One being this aspect of control, which I referenced. I brought you up as having referenced, right? So you're going to tell us about finding a good 12-year-old Muslim. That maybe that came out wrong, but hey, um, go to a Muslim country, do whatever the hell it is you're going to say. But also, with regards to work-life balance, right? I think Elliot had a great line there where it's like, well, you're always working, well, you're always spending money, right? That's a good one. Something's got to give, or we're just going to agree you're always going to be working, you're always going to be spending money, and that's the contract, okay? But what are the challenges that are out there with regards to keeping this family intact, work life balance, whatnot, as they say? And also, you may comment on this aspect of needing to um, control the excesses, right, of female nature. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. So in relation to like the sorry, I haven't had water recently. But in relation, I mean, anyways, in relation to the work-life balance situation, you're 100% right. I think that was the best way that I've ever seen someone put it. Like, okay, hey, you're always working, you never have time for me. Well, you're always spending, and me being responsible means that I have to be able to balance
100%.
the ledgers.
That's
And I
right.
think that is something that usually gets sort of curtailed a lot, right? We've reached a point where culturally we prioritize real time, real moment feelings, which aren't even they're not even existential, right? In the past, you are gonna have a feeling because someone there's a tribe, there's a man or woman out there about to kill you in your face. So your feelings and response in there is very vital. But right now we're having feelings that are not based on any real consequence. So prioritizing that over actually, making sure that your bank account is not sick, it has to take precedence. And I think that's a really great argument, like that you brought there. It's clear, it's simple, and it makes perfect sense. Yeah, I'm always working because you love your new whatever it is that they love to buy. And I think that's perfect in that way. In relationship to like now finding someone who is as well adjusted as you for your son, or whatever it is, I think sometimes we don't need to seek high levelness completely. We just need to seek other attributes that can kind of mimic high levelness. Obedience is an example. A woman that was raised by a good father and was given and shown, what she has that other people don't have, she's going to value that strength that when she sees it in her husband, that regardless of how she's feeling, she will see that there's something greater here that clearly I'm getting and other people are not getting. Again, I'm generalizing here, but I would say that generally speaking, finding someone who's obedient, and they believe in God, actually, right? This is very important. I don't mean this new age witchcraft Wicca kind of women who's like all over the place talking about the spirit of God all the time. I mean actual someone who believes in God, believes in discipline, and that person's going to be much easier to deal with. And sort of, for example, I remember when I was younger, there's some things I saw that my parents did or my mom did or whatever it is this: you pray together, right? You go through hardships together through God, right? There's a high level concept that you both submit to while she submits to you. So if you have that, she can trust you more because she's not just putting her whole life on you. You're putting her whole life on something else also that she values and respects. So that level of hierarchy can teach her obedience. And also, again, as long as you're doing your part, I believe, because I went down the wrong path a little bit, right? I kind of disregarded God, and all that kind of stuff. I didn't disbelieve it; I just disregarded it. And what I'm sort of coming to realize is spirits are real, right? There are real evil spirits out there that just, whatever it is, and you have to navigate that world by maintaining a healthy existence between you and your wife.
Yeah, I think you made a lot of really great points. I like this business about praying together with your spouse, and admittedly, this is something that I've done a pretty poor job of, because that's just that's something that I personally struggle with. I mean, I pray consistently. I do all the usual prayers that you would expect someone to over the course of a day, but as far as sort of praying through issues, I mean, I will pray. It's usually a pretty simple thing. I usually rely on um, historical prayers that have been useful, helpful, but as far as like doing that with my wife, that's something that I know she wants, but it's just not something that I've been particularly good at doing. But I also think that what you said is totally true. I think if your spouse sees that model, it's likely that that's going to produce more trust in your leadership. Because it's not just you just willy nilly saying any old thing just because that's how you feel at the time, but rather you have particular principles and you have priorities, and you have laid out those principles and priorities in a what I want to say in a transparent manner. That's kind of how what prayer ends up doing in that context. I wanted to also say the thing about the working, like, okay, you work, all you do is work, all you do is spend. That I like this for a couple reasons, but I also want to point at something that is, you can't, so you can't win for losing, right? So, okay, you want a bigger house, you want a different car, you want this, that. Well, the only way that I know how to get that is I have to work more, and even if I'm trying to find a way so that I can work less hours and make more money, that's front loaded. That means I'm going to work a lot more for nothing right now so that I can be trying to set up a scenario where I can work less to make more money. So this is just how this is just the nature of it. And it's part of the It's part of the curse, as it were. That men would be, uh, you know, sweat of our brow. We'll be working the earth. We'll be toil and labor and all of this. This is part of the curse of the fall. This is you have to make this trade. You make a trade of time and effort and energy for money. That's what it is, and that's all we have. And to treat that like that's not important, like that's trivial, like it's And I'm going to tell you, part of this sort of propping up XXs in the workplace, it has the impact of marginalizing male effort, right? As a means to bring to the table what it is that they're meant to bring to the table, but something that's directly tied to their value, right? In this sense, a woman's value, what it is that a man wants from a woman, has nothing to do with money or providence or how much money they can make, how many degrees they have. None of that stuff is what a man values, but a woman certainly does value those things. And so creating a situation where you have now undervalued, devalued men, and then the ones that are hyper successful marginalize, trivialize what it is that they do by calling them stuff like workaholics. And by the way, what caused them to even appear to you to be a workaholic other than your spending? How do you think that this thing works? Would you think I'm supposed to conjure some money out of thin air? Is that how this is supposed to work? No. I'll tell you, in my life, every prayer that I have prayed for during a transitional period, or to make a choice clearer to me, or to bless my productivity, my ability to produce, revenue for the home, whatever it is, every prayer that I've prayed, the very next thing, the way the answer always has come, is more work. Never been anything other than that. It's always more work. It's never sit around and things just happen to just magically happen. You know what? You know what? I prayed this prayer. I went to the corner store. I got me a lotto ticket, and I just had some numbers, man. I had to play these numbers. I had gotten these numbers from a fortune cookie. I was over getting my Kung Pao chicken, and they gave me the numbers. I played those numbers, and you know what? The Lord answered my prayers. I am now independently wealthy and don't have to work. And let me tell you, the second that you don't have to work, they won't like you for that too. Because they want you to be gone most of the time. So look, there's no way to fix that. You're you can't win for nothing, man.
Yeah, I think there's something annoying universally about some dude laying on a couch. So, good point there. Speaking of compound chicken,
Hold up. I gotta say this. The weird thing about that is everybody else laying on the couch is not annoying. That's the problem.
Oh, right.
The whole family and extended family could be laying on their couches. Nobody's annoyed.
That's right.
But not you.
That's right.
Used to eat Chinese on a late night after laying with a hater who would throw shade wife. Ladies and gentlemen, let's pivot. Let's pivot. Let's pivot. Time is already far gone. This Father's Day topic here took more time than I thought it would, but good conversation so far. Good conversation so far regarding how to maintain the balance, the complications, and the challenges inherent in that. Good conversations about the role of fatherhood and how it may or may not have changed. Good conversation about the responsibility that men bear and the responsibility that they have to take for the conditions of that we find ourselves in, right? Both individually and collectively. But, ladies and gentlemen, and shout out to the chat. Go ahead and join Andre and super chat those happy Father's Day wishes, right?
Yes.
Andre, you can't just leave Andre out there alone with his Canadian dollars. We know he's a broke young man and he's doing his best to help out. So shout out to you. So the N-word and the N-word controversy, right? This is definitely this is a perpetual one. But I think something recently happened on TikTok with someone. Well, you know what? LAR, did you see that? Did you see the video with the white lady talking about don't date a broke ass ninja and stuff like that? Oh yeah, nigga.
No,
I,
it's a
we, we
waste of
we were
time.
allowed to. Yeah, go ahead.
No, it's a waste of time. Listen, look, you know the truth about the N word that a lot of us in Black America just clown about. It's not that you can't say it. It's that you act like you turn state's evidence snitch when you get punched in the mouth for saying it. Look, our issue is if you're gonna be disrespectful, expect disrespect back. This idea where you could just be disrespectful, but I'm being disrespectful to you and you're Black, you're just supposed to take it. No, you're gonna miss a couple of teeth. That is ultimately the issue with all of this stuff. White people been saying the N words for hundreds of years. You know why they stopped saying it to our face? Because they started getting knocked out. That's the reality for all the other people who are not white and not Black. But I want to say it. You know why you say it when you're around your people? Because if you say it around us, you're gonna get knocked out. Mm. But you know what all of these people do simultaneously? Officer, it was a big Black 6'9" bald head guy with a Cadillac who accosted me and I did nothing. Like, guess what? It's broke people in every race. And somehow these people because if we reel this back a little bit, and especially for Black Americans, you notice we don't go around using slurs on other racial groups. That's not our thing. We'll say the N-word to each other, but we don't call Asian slurs. We don't call Hispanic slurs. We don't call Muslims and Arab slurs. We don't really do that. We don't call white
the
people
white man
slurs.
cracker though, but
Huh?
go ahead.
But that's not a slur.
Oh yeah, well, the Scottish. Yeah. Okay, you're
yeah.
right, Doctor.
Yeah. It's interesting that cracker term. I recently watched something where they went historically and they showed where the term came from. It's actually a term that they chose to call themselves. It's in no way anywhere analogous to the N word for Black people, which was not a word that we chose. It was a word that we were called. And then later we, quote unquote, reclaimed the name under the, with the soft ending as a supposed term of endearment. Okay. So this is different. This is a totally different context. Now, can a ninja say cracker with the same sort of vitriol is, say, a white person could say a hard ER? Sure. Okay, but the terms themselves are totally different. There's nothing analogous. Just thought I'd put that in there.
Like usually, like let me do it this way. You can run into a Hispanic cat that'll call you the N word. And then if you call him a Hispanic slur, he gets caught off guard. How dare you say that? You just called me such and such. What's the problem?
Yeah.
Like it's for us in general, it's just weird to have this entitlement that you could disrespect us with no recourse.
Yep.
But then all of a sudden, your brain kicks in when it comes to not disrespecting other people.
This is actually one of the reasons why a lot of folks believe, and I actually happen to share this sentiment, that the more effective voices in the civil rights movement were the violent ones. Was burn baby burn. If a white man slaps you, kill him. This kind of term. This kind of look. I'm not condoning that. I'm not telling people to do that. I'm saying that these are, I think, the expressions that really struck fear in the heart of John Q. Taxpayer, and then forced people to say, I don't think I want that over there, so we're going to go ahead and do this. Go ahead.
I'm going to condone it because these people don't have a problem with assaulting our kids, using racial slurs. They don't have a problem assaulting elderly people. Like when it comes to dislike of just black folks, all these other groups, they cross this line where I don't want to deal with an adult, but I'll hurt a teenager. I don't want to deal with an adult, but I'll hurt an elderly person. I don't want to really deal with adults, so I'll surprise attack somebody with a gun out of the blue. Like all this stuff that when you do it to another group, it comes with hefty penalties. This is the normal framework that happens. So and you can see it like you see it all throughout America. Like people of all other ethnicities and groups really thinks it's okay to step on a child if it's a black kid.
No.
So I condone it. Hey, whatever. And then if you step on their kid, oh my God, what is wrong with you? You're unhuman. You're inhumane. You're evil. You're an animal. But that's your normal practice.
Yeah, there's a bit Chappelle David Chappelle does, talking about the difference between when black youth are involved in something that goes down and when white youth are. When white youth, it's like it's kid gloves. Oh, they're a kid. And he used the example of this kid that's like 15 or something, and he does like a WrestleMania move on a neighbor kid, and the kid dies from the move. This is this kid's friend. He's distraught that the kid died too. He of course didn't mean to do anything, and their kid's just roughhousing, right? But he got he deserves the death penalty for that. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was when he was loading up that power bomb, he knew what he was. It turns into that. Real quick, the super chat by Leon 008. Thank you very much. Saying y'all got trolled by a white woman saying the N-word. Now she has 2 million followers. She has multiple pages, and the right wingers already checked her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Shout out to you, LAR. I wanna ask you something, right? Along the lines of what we're still talking about here with the N-word, and I want you to now consider an individual, right? So we're talking about. I heard you talking about these groups and what these groups do. So let's talk about an individual. Becky from Louisiana, right? And Becky's a fan of hip hop. She's not crazy. She likes that stuff, right? All that. And she the N-word is there, and she likes to hey my nigga, whatever, right? Talk about that, right? So there's a context of, hey, there's a broad industry here. People are saying this stuff. People like it, right? Hip hop is good stuff, right? I was out there screaming out the N word in my room in Africa too, right? With the rest of the whole world. So, what is this? How do you judge that particular Becky from Louisiana just loving her hip hop? What are your thoughts?
She gonna say it in her car. She not gonna say it around other black people. People act like people, or she gonna say it around in Coachella around a bunch of other white people. These people do not go around in public and you go, oh, because I like hip hop, niggas gonna die. Niggas wonder why. Like, this is not what happens. This is not what happens. Like, the reality of it, you do this stuff off somewhere where there will be no response.
Every time the N word is in the lyric, get real close to a black person and shake your head like that.
Yeah. Like, well, I just did it, but it was a movie when Chris Rock did that. It was a movie where Chris Rock came back from the dead and they put him in a white guy's body, but he still liked DMX. And he got punched because he was in the hood on a date. I love DMX. Niggas wonder why. Niggas, and he got knocked out. Like, wonder why. Yeah, people act like the reality is you don't do that stuff around a bunch of black people. The close and people try to do it individually with us, like, because they try to fill us out. Can I say it around you? Can I say it around? So I could be that one black friend that allows you to say it and make it cool for you. The situations aren't real. I used to be a battle rapper. Guess what? You ain't never. Movie. Yeah, thank you. Like, I used to be a battle rapper. White people wasn't battle rapping with a bunch of black people. Oh no, we ain't gonna do this one. I got to do something else. Like, it's not. It's just it doesn't work out in practical application.
No. Good. Matter of fact, yeah, good. Yeah,
and this is true. This is true. Very true. Because even young black folks know that even that their friends who aren't black who like saying it, they won't come to their house and say it around their family members.
Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that we carved out that context. So you're fine with her, vibing out to DMX in her car. That's perfectly fine. But she can't, don't act stupid. Don't like, oh well, but I was just listening to DMX. So what's wrong with this boardroom meeting? I could just blurt out here too. So Kaizo, right? Maybe you can give us a counter. Maybe you can say, well, what the hell is all this big deal about the N-word anyways? Maybe you can give us the free speech perspective, even though perhaps that's more suited to Dr. Thunder and his libertarianism. But what are your thoughts, generally speaking, Kaizo?
What she should have said is, stop dating bitch-ass niggas, right? That instead of saying broke-ass niggas. Always crying, black Americans all the time, slavery. Get over it, man. It's 2024, the year of our Lord, Jesus Christ, the white man. Let's just move on, right? I know I'm African, right? Maybe not really black, but let's get on, right? What we should be celebrating is the fact that Martin Luther King fought for us to be able to smash Becky, and that's why she's giving us a chance.
There you go.
I just want to know something, Kaizo. So when somebody call you, what is that called? A kefa? So it's all good?
No, that's different. You see, that's different, right?
What is a bead? Like, what you mean is different? You had a Muslim girlfriend. What was it? Was it a bead, or what is it called for the black term?
Now, you see, that's different, right? Because the word nigga means black in Latin, right? A bead actually means slave. It's very different.
Oh boy, that hypocrisy, boy.
Go ahead, Dr. Thunder. You can.
What am I talking about?
Exactly. What exactly are we talking about here? Basically, you can address one of the things that LAR addressed, which is, there is hip hop music, there is the
Right.
word out there, it's a term of endearment. It's also kind of funny and kind of cool, and if you're this person that's trying to belong and whatnot, and hey, whatever, and you're doing your thing, what's to be said about that? And then also there's the general thing of, well, how about we just kind of stop, right? In other words, stop meaning, sure, there could still be a place whereby you argue for the rightness or wrongness of it, but how about the emotional temperature just comes down and we stop giving Becky 2 million subscribers, for example?
Yeah. So uh yeah, Martin Luther King died for the right of brothers to smash face. uh
And guess what? And Nintendo followed up that dream and invented the Smash Bros.
oh
And
goodness
OJ
gracious.
Simpson, anyways, let's go.
Okay. Goodness gracious.
I'm gonna
Um
say that for Nelson Mandela too.
But
right.
I know we're joking, but it's true. I mean, wasn't he like cheating with a white woman? Talk about little dreams of little black boys and little white girls. It's all in there in the dream.
They got fentanyl all over in Africa now, don't they?
Oh goodness. Yeah, so and we're having a good time and levity's good in these kind of topics. It would be good to be able to eliminate a lot of the emotion, the hyper emotion associated with this term, because it's not, yes, we we're we are I mean we're far removed from certain things, and uh, part of the full acknowledgement of that is that terminology from that sort of time period, things that were designed to demean and whatnot, no longer have this sort of power that they did, and we still kind of allow some of these terms to still have that power now. But there is a sort of, where's the sort of nexus between, or the sweet spot between respecting people's, uh, the history of certain terms, respecting that, and then also freedom of speech. Where is the true freedom of speech when anyone can say anything that they want to say? So where's the sweet spot between those sort of those concepts?
I
That's
got a
kind.
curious question.
Go ahead.
Because Chukwu asked how many Beckys have an N word pass in 2024. I got a curious question for people who are quote unquote not FBA, who are not Black Americans. The question is, when they say it to y'all, do y'all give them a pass?
I guess I've actually never encountered it, right? Quite honestly. And go ahead, Kaizo.
It depends. Look, again, this is my past, right? But you know, when they're talking about using N word, I talk about something size and other things. Some black people allow it, and I think that's what sort of
So yeah,
emboldens these people.
you're saying, so you, Kaizo, when they're giving you an N-word compliment about your nether regions, you're okay with it?
Yeah,
Um,
unfortunately, I was
LAR
okay with it.
Oh
Life.
goodness.
Mexicans has been my experience, right? And yeah, I didn't
Like, for
police it.
example,
I'll have to tell you that.
the Mexicans be saying, "Hey, papi, are you from Nicaragua? Oh my gosh, papi!" It hits different.
Yeah, LAR, I'm guilty as charged. I let it slide. Light skinned Mexican chick. Yeah, hey,
No, the only reason I asked that, because I thought about it, is usually, from my experience, people who aren't actually from here but are black don't actually have the same history with the term, so it don't really. They don't, I've know they don't have the same type of visceral reaction to it. And knowing us the way we know non-black folks here, they'll come to people who, where you from? Oh, I could use it with you, and y'all don't actually see it coming. But we like, yep, yep, here you go. You know he ain't gonna say it to me, but he gonna say it to you.
I see. I didn't recognize the undertones going on there. All right.
You know, what's also kind of so you know the term is it's a low budget term. You know, only hood ninjas are going to be running around saying N word this, N word that, right? So it's a low budget term. I don't use. I would have no reason to use that term at my job. I mean, if I'm reading a book and the word is in the book, I'll probably just let it fly. I probably won't censor it. But when I'm reading something, depending on the context, I may not censor it anyway, even if it had an F-bomb in it or whatever. But it really is a low budget word. And those people that would be fighting for the right to say the N word, if they are black, white, or whatever they are, it seems to me that this is like low budget folks. And so in a manner of speaking, although this debate keeps coming back and new versions of this debate keep coming back, really the only folks that want to use the word or want to feel at liberty are people that we would call their reasoning faculties into question at some level, or they're just broke ninjas. So so in a matter of speaking, as far as like high society, as far as functional, reliable, we're talking about masculinity and fatherhood and all that kind of stuff. As far as folks that are pursuing those aspects of life as the most important things, being dependable, reliable, trustworthy, compassionate, all of that kind of stuff, they're not really the ones having the N-word debate.
I just thought about something. I'm sorry, Doc.
Go ahead.
I think we forget, like, people put a stereotype on us that we don't even think about. We don't go around our homes and friends worrying about other groups of people and putting slurs on them. So it's like if somebody got a better grade than me in school and they was of a different ethnicity, I'm not going to shoot out a slur. Such and such got an A and I got a B. That's a mother. We don't do that. So a lot of times our thinking about other people is like, what do you mean? You mean to tell me like y'all was in the house or at the thing and y'all was cussing me out for what? Like, we don't think about other people enough to have a level of hatred because of their ethnicity. It's not like we don't rock like that because we don't care enough about stuff like that.
And that's a good point. I would argue now, that most people are like that. They don't have time to be worrying about conjuring up racial, most people. It doesn't mean white folks, black folks, Hispanic folks, Asian folks. They just trying to get through the day, do the stuff that they need to deal with, whatever. But yes, there are some in each group that's their thing. And
I'm gonna keep to what you just said because it's a little bit of pushback. Because when we look on YouTube and social media, shows and everything, you notice a trend of people who are not black having conversations about black people when black people aren't even in the room. The subject don't even be. It's like, but the black people and we try. We don't have a panel where we go, let's talk about the Mexicans. and what's going on we don't really do that in that same context. We don't just come out of the blue. And the Japanese people, like, we don't. For us, it looks weird because when we watch media, we're trying to figure out why people interject us. Like, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna shut up. Like, even when you watch the Young Turks on YouTube, they never
Yep.
talk about Turkish people. It's and black people. It's like, yo, bro, what happened to the Turks?
Yeah. 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 I agree. And that'd be a category that I would agree with. But outside of media or producing content for clicks and views and stuff, outside of that, I don't know that most people. I still stand by most people are not looking for or desiring to be allowed to use, the N word or whatever. I mean, and if they are, then like I said, it is, that may be a sign of something that isn't really about the N word, So
Indeed, indeed, indeed. So we're gonna start winding down. We'll start winding down in an hour and 42 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Right? And we started this conversation about Father's Day. It is Father's Day. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Shout out to the people whom gave the super chats, which you can still keep coming. Okay, we don't pause, as they would say. We don't. It doesn't matter the amount, right? Things are hard out there. The price of eggs and all that kind of stuff. Yes.
I actually tried sending 1,000 shillings from Uganda, and I don't know, it failed. It asked me about my address and stuff.
Yeah. You can't do. You have to. You know what you got to do. You got to like do the VPN thing or blah blah blah. Yeah. So I have issues too, and I'm in Ghana. I have to switch to the hidden thing to super chat. But yes, much appreciated. And for those of you thinking about it, go ahead and hit up the super chat. But let's start with you, Kaiser, and then we'll go to LAR, and then Dr. Thunder can take us out regarding just closing thoughts regarding everything that we've been talking about. Right? Go ahead.
Well, I'd rather Dr. Thunder takes out the thoughts instead of us. But I think it was a great and productive discussion today. I think we've got somewhere. We know what masculinity is. We know the roles of men and fathers in our children's lives, right, and our partner, wives' lives, right. So I think that was a great sort of point that we all kind of came to a pretty good agreement on that aspect. Regarding the N word, I think this is a Black American issue, and of course, all the tethers that come to America or associate with America need to be stopped, right? One time, someone kept thinking I was Black, talking about chicken and watermelon. I was like, I'm not that kind of Black, right? I'm African. I like goat meat, right? Very different kind of Black. So it's good. it's,
Like a little
it's
phone,
good that
not me.
right. So we got to make sure that the tethers don't start ruining what the Black American community has built.
There you go. There you go. Nice little balance there by Kaizo. But LAR, go ahead, take us out regarding what we talked about Father's Day. Anything else you want to add? And also the N word, policing the N word, the use of the N word, Becky in her car, and all that other good stuff. Go ahead.
Father's Day is the N word of all holidays.
Hey.
Juneteenth is about to pass it because it's coming up on Wednesday and people will celebrate that more. And I'm just curious to know, what about fried goat meat? You could be half Black. Fried goat meat.
Oh goodness.
Good
Real
one,
quick,
good one. And Dusty Chuku Igwe in the building, Dusty Igbo man. But he is half African American. He claims to be. He keeps saying it. He's not proven this, So he does, he's out there tethering and cosplaying out there to be a Black man. But
happy Father's Day and salute to the premium Blacks.
oh no, there you go.
The premium Black. Let's go.
Sounds like shade to me, Leo.
Oh, that could be a platform. Premium black.
Chicken over goat meat.
That's right.
Oh man, there you go, Dr. Thunder. Take us out.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. Interesting combination of topics. The N-word thing is again, it's something that's likely never going to go away. It's going to just keep recycling and until until there aren't actually anybody that looks different than anybody else. Then that but so it'll keep recycling. And it is Father's Day, and I know there's probably those in the chat that have been estranged from their children, and you're going through it, or you're in a custody battle. Those that are paying hella child support, those that are living in your car, are struggling. You did all the stuff, you made all the sacrifices, and then she decided that she was not happy and she was ready to kick you to the curb, and she's got the big house with all of the stuff that you sacrificed for, and you're struggling. Keep the faith, keep your head up. This too shall pass. Just, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And fortunately, I've not been in that circumstance, but I have friends that have experienced that. But it will pass. It will get better. And to those that have been blessed to be able to remain in the lives of your kids, that is the most important thing that you will ever do, is be that supportive, that positive force for your child. And so keep up the good work. If it wasn't for fathers, we wouldn't have anything. And although we put a premium on eggs, it ain't just the eggs. It ain't just eggs that it takes to create a human being. So that is it. Peace out, everybody. Have a great day. Peace.